All right, people, welcome back to the channel. My name is Dave, and this is Save America Vote Tulsi Gabbard. It's a channel really devoted to a movement, and Tulsi right now, to me, is the leader of that movement. I'm on a website here called antiwar.com, and this morning I watched a Kim Iverson video about the whole let's go to war with Iran. Kim, if you're not subscribed to Kim Iverson, you need to be, because she breaks things down. She's not hysterical in her commentary. She's not mean. She's not the angry progressive, all right? She is just somebody who's got a measured approach, and I really enjoy her commentary because I can watch Kim Iverson, and she's very independent-minded, and I think she does look at both sides of an issue before she lurches out and starts making unreasonable comments, which, you know, I'm not naming names, but there are a lot of channels that you'll watch, independent media, and you'll think to yourself, they've got their little audience, they've got their little clique, they can't stray outside the boundaries of what they think they need to say. And at times I think that's it's tribal, and you're not going to really attract new people to your movement if you're constantly just coloring inside the lines all the time. And I would just advise people, you know, if you want to convince more people to get on board with progressive ideas, then you need to talk to those people. Don't talk down to those people. Tulsi Gabbard is an anti-war candidate. And anti-war, I always say, it'd be cool to make anti-war a thing again. There are old school 60s, call them 60s style Democrats, into the 70s maybe because Vietnam was still going, who were fervently anti-war, who probably helped Mike Gravel get elected, although Mike was up in Alaska, and Alaska is a very independent place. But a guy like Mike Gravel was elected because there was a wave, there was an anti-war sentiment. We no longer have that. What the Kim Iverson video did for me was it illustrated how war-prone we are and how our media is very interested in this, because this becomes theater. People dying. It's interesting when people die, according to Don Henley and the song Dirty Laundry. All right, it's interesting. People look at those things, and they look at it as a soap opera unfolding before them. They don't look at it as human treasure being destroyed. They don't look at the financial burden that we continue to all bear because of these endless conflicts. Now, this article, The Exceptionally American Historical Amnesia Behind Pompeo's Claim of 40 Years of Unprovoked Iranian Aggression. Now, has Iran attacked us? No. Tulsi Gabbard has pleaded. She's done videos saying, please, let's not do this. Let's not do it. And the majority, in fact, it's a vast majority, according to what Kim Iverson said, of the American people do not want a war with Iran. Even President Trump, as flawed as he is, pulled the plug on an attack, although I think he's trying to send a message to his supporters that, hey, it's not me. I'm going to show you that I'm not like these people who are all rushing in. But ultimately, this, I call it deep state government, which kind of runs itself. And we install a new figurehead, but it keeps running itself. And they all parrot the same talking points. Lindsey Graham is out there basically saying, well, yeah, the president didn't act, but he still needs to act. And he will act. It's just a matter of time. He will act. And they're all going to get up there and tell him, hey, if you want support for your re-election campaign, you better get out there. And Trump's going to do it, because Trump, more than anything, is driven by being liked, having his ego stroked a bit, being commander-in-chief. I think for Trump is, a fun part of the job for him. And so he gets out there and he does a little dance with his supporters, but the bottom line is he'll do what the MIC tells him to do. And here's a paragraph here, and then I'm just going to skip down to the last paragraph. From a CIA coup and supporting the Shah's brutality to enabling chemical attacks, shooting down a civilian airliner, and training terrorists, this is all true. You just have to look into it. Aggression between the U.S. and Iran is overwhelmingly one-sided, and that aggression comes from the United States. Again, when has Iran ever launched a missile at the United States? Has Iran ever sent ships out into the Atlantic to surround? I mean, if you look at the military bases where they're all located, and Kim Iverson pointed this out, I mean, we surround them. They don't surround us. And we're sending troops, lots of troops out there right now. I think it was 1,000 was the first estimate. I guarantee you there's more. I guarantee it's more than 1,000. It's always higher than the number. Because 1,000, person driving down the road listening to the, ABC News report that comes through their conservative talk radio station or their music channel that they're listening to. They think, 1,000 troops. Well, we have to protect ourselves. We've got to, God bless those troops. Yeah, okay. Again, I mean, and people don't see this pattern, just keeps repeating itself over and over again. Now, this is a really long article because it's antiwar.com, and it's a website where you can actually get detailed information, all right? This guy, Brett Wilkins, is the guy, and he's into social justice, human rights, and war and peace, so it sounds like he's kind of a lefty. But actors including Israel, Saudi Arabia, and some in the Trump administration seem hell-bent on waging a war against Iran that would ideally end in the overthrow of the country's Islamic regime. Now, another thing that they do while they ratchet up this tension, and Tulsi Gabbard has tried to explain this with as much specificity, and Kim Iverson did the same thing about the different flavors of Islam. They try to throw Islam under the bus, as everybody believes the same thing, and then they throw the word Islamic in there, and people freak out. People here in this country don't understand, like Christianity, there are all kinds of different branches of Islam. And Tulsi Gabbard, she got a lot of heat for not being specific, and I think she's put this in a video, and I know Kim Iverson has said, look, we get words wrong or we get definitions wrong. There's a certain branch of Islam, and Saudi Arabia, I believe, has the majority of this sort of radicalized version of it. But the American people hear Islam and they just, okay, we need to go then because we don't want those terrorists coming back. They make that connection, even though it's an ill-informed connection. It's been done. This is it. This is what the military-industrial complex does. They create a boogeyman, we freak out, and we say, okay, we better do this. But what are we doing it for? I mean, is it going to make the United States a safer place to live? No. It has nothing to do with us. The partners in the region, partners, meaning Israel and Saudi Arabia, this is something they want us to do. And the pretext, according to Kim Iverson and also Lindsey Graham, is that Israel will act first, and I'm sure they will. And then, hey, they're our ally, they need our help. And the majority of American citizens, including many in the so-called progressive movement on the Democratic side of the aisle, those people are all in with Israel. They are fine, and they will do what they need to do to support Israel. That's why there was so much outrage when Ilhan Omar made that comment about military aid or aid to the country itself, that we're sending money to Israel. And, you know, if you truly want to be, fiscally responsible, you need to cut off military aid to all these countries that can certainly fend for themselves. Okay? And then Iran, it says here, Iran isn't without its faults. However, these pale in comparison to those of the U.S., which has and has used nuclear weapons, staged or supported numerous coups, attacked half a dozen Middle Eastern countries already this century, and nearly encircled Iran with military bases. I just said this. And imagine if there was a country, okay, I would be advocating probably for some kind of correction. I don't know, I'd call it a war. But if there was a country out there that had surrounded the United States with military bases, you know, put them all in strategic areas, they're up in Canada, and then they're off the shore somewhere in some island, and, you know, Mexico, and I don't know, there's not much to the west, immediate west of the country other than Hawaii, so this is nuts. This is, when you think about this, when you think this through, and Tulsi Gabbard has thought this through, and this is why she's running her whole campaign on an anti-war message. That's why it's her, because everything, all roads lead to this giant behemoth of a government. I'm just going to call it a government. It's not our government. We didn't elect these people, but they're acting on our behalf as kind of like an arm of the people who we elect. And they continuously, we have to be able to have a voice in this again. We used to. People used to pay attention to anti-war, but they don't anymore. They don't. It says here, Iran has no nuclear weapons, no bases within 10,000 kilometers of the United States, and has never directly attacked the U.S. or, of course, overthrown its government. Who is the real aggressor here? Now, when you read this, when people in the American media read this, and this would be like a Chris Matthews or whoever, you know, what you would call a garden variety, sort of center-left, tribalist person, they're going to say, oh, well, you know, we do have to be careful about Iran. This kind of stuff here is pie in the sky, even though it's 100% factual what this article has. And to say that the real aggressor is us, you know, it's demonetization. It's I don't know, and that's the reason Tulsi Gabbard's campaign is struggling. It's struggling because she's being marginalized left and right. She's being told, number one, she's a Russian agent. Oh, you'll hear that, you know, Russia is in bed with Iran. So there's your connection right there, Russia and Iran. You know, Russia wants a peace deal, and therefore you can't trust Russia because Russia's not in with us to take over Iran. I mean, this is just, it's naked aggression is what it is. It's naked, because a drone got shot down. Look, I hope Trump continues to use the leverage of, you know, the supporters who elected him, who believe he was less interventionalist. I remember Jill Stein. I'll never forget her. She was on an interview, and she was comparing Trump and Hillary, and she was basically like saying, yeah, it appears that Trump is the one who's a little less likely to go start blowing things up needlessly. She said that, and I think she was correct. However, it seems as though, and this is the thing that Tulsi is afraid of, and a lot of Tulsi fans and Bernie fans, we're all a little afraid that this beast is too big to tame. Like this is something that just we can't get under control. We can elect a president, but can we really stop this? Can we really put the brakes on it? And I'm hoping that we can, but you're not going to put the brakes on it with a neocon or a neolib. Joe Biden ain't going to put the brakes on this. Joe Biden will stroll to the podium and say all the things that the military people are saying. Joe Biden has been around those people for 40, 50 years. All right. And he trusts them because it's just implicit in the way it's intrinsic to how he's behaved. And there's only two candidates who have different instincts out there. Well, three if you count Mike Gravel, who's not going to be in the debates because he didn't raise enough money. But it's Tulsi Gabbard and Bernie Sanders. And by the way, Tulsi Gabbard is a long way from qualifying for debate number 3. And I can tell you, and this is just a warning to everybody, if Tulsi Gabbard does not qualify for debate 3, I think it's game over. So, we got the first 2 debates, great. We got a debate coming up in less than a week or about a week or so. We need all hands on deck if you haven't supported Tulsi Gabbard. Give her a buck. The buck is worth it because it's for our future. It's for military people who aren't going to be shipped off again to an unconstitutional war. And nobody's really talking about the constitutionality. You know, it's one thing about Ron Paul and a little bit of Tulsi is they come at it from a constitutional standpoint, and that's what gets conservatives interested. Their ears perk up and they say, oh, yeah, the Constitution, remember that thing? It used to be, applicable to war, but we've got this, hey, we're just going to go to war, and, the Congress was cheerlead, but there'll be no authorization. That's why Tulsi has filed the, I love this, the No Presidential Wars Act, where she says the president just can't declare war unilaterally. And I think that's striking a nerve with some who've heard about it. The problem is nobody in the media is talking about it, of course. Of course. So, in any event, great article from antiwar.com. It's a great website. It's all over this because, quite frankly, all you're hearing in the media is cheerleading and how do we get to war and the pretext for war, and Trump pulls the plug. But I don't think he can hold these people back because all these people, he's got people who are literal war hawks in his administration. Not just like, you have this debate about, is Tulsi a dove when it comes to terrorism? Is she a dove when it comes, it's these people are all out war hawks. They look for a reason to go to war. They're ruled by military contractors. They understand the economy that we have as a country right now, and it's just going to help the GDP, and that's all they care about. They don't really care about the cost of war as far as human lives, and they don't really care about how much money we spend on this, which is crazy because, fiscal conservatism under Trump, by the way, went out the window. Just completely went out the window. And that's weird to think about because you would think, well, it's a Republican, they're going to try to cut this and cut that. Yeah, they cut programs for people who need them, okay, for just average Americans. But they increase spending every single time. And that's what lefties have said for years about this, and they've been correct about it. Now lefties typically don't want to try to control spending as far as, say welfare, which I think, all these issues need to be looked at. But warfare is, I'd rather give out welfare than warfare, because warfare just, the numbers are astronomical, and the return on investment for the average American is like zero. I'm sorry, unless you work for a military contractor, and most workaday folks have not found a way to climb that ladder to get to work for one of these giant corporations that keep the military machine running. Most of us are trying to just make ends meet at regular jobs and so forth. So, again, this is why Tulsi Gabbard's platform is so important. And it's, Ron Paul had it too, and he had fervent support for a few years, but he was marginalized and pushed to the outer fringes. And they're doing the same thing with Tulsi Gabbard. She's a buddy for Assad and all of these crazy things that we learn about her which are untrue, which she gets fired up about. And then the smears come in from all of the so-called left publications who want their Kamala Harris, or they want their Elizabeth Warren. If I keep hearing Elizabeth Warren loves the war machine, she wants to make it green, she wants to make it more efficient, you know? So we save maybe a couple 100,000 a year because we've got green efficiency added to the military. I mean, come on. And she knows, look, she's from Massachusetts. Who's in Raytheon? She's not going to campaign against Raytheon. I mean, that's her, she's going to take lots of money from them. So people, we gotta band together. This is a movement, and it can't necessarily end if Tulsi Gabbard can't get to the presidency. It can't end. Like I say, if I need to vote green, or if I need to find a third party, just because of this one issue, I may not agree on a lot of other things. I may be a little cringeworthy in some areas when I hear some of these platforms coming out, like these aren't my priorities per se. But if they tell me I'm anti-war, anti-monopoly, free speech, all of those things, big tech, they're the ones that perpetuate all of these ideas over and over again on YouTube and everywhere else. I'm for breaking up all of this stuff so common folks like you and I can have a voice. And we'll continue to talk about these things because it's a matter of life or death. It's a matter of our country just becoming this perpetual war machine, which it has really for the last 50 years, 60 years. You can put a number on it. I don't even know anymore. All right, I'm done. This has been quite a rant. I thought it was going to be a short video, but it hasn't been. Please support Tulsi Gabbard. Please go to her website, and please check out some other websites that feature Tulsi. President TulsiGabbard.org, Tulsi2020.com. But most importantly, if you haven't given to her campaign, you need to do this. We need her voice in debate number 3. We're running out of time. We need to get that money in. All right, I'm done. See you soon.